Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I have a grounding practice for you to do. Now, this is a grounding practice that uses your five senses to help you identify a point of focus, something that helps anchor you when you are feeling just like you're spinning out of control, or you are feeling overstimulated, or everything feels just really unsettled and uncertain. This is a really simple practice to do to help you recenter, to connect back into your body, into yourself, so that you feel just a little bit more steady in your body, a little bit more connected, right? And a little bit more attuned, right? So you're paying a little bit closer attention instead of letting yourself get pulled out, right? And disconnected, okay? And it's a practice that you can do anywhere, anytime. So it's one of my absolute favorites. Now, like I said, this involves your five senses. You actually don't need to close your eyes. You don't need to go to a quieter place. You don't need to do anything special. You can take a seat like I am. So I'm sitting up on a blanket to give my hips a little bit more lift, which gives me more comfort when I'm sitting on the ground. And it also just gives my spine a little bit more length and space. But you can sit in a chair. You could even lie down on the ground. You could be standing and walking around. So put yourself in a place where you feel relatively comfortable. And just take a few full breaths in and out. And the first sense that I want you to tap into is what you can see, so your sight. So I want you to look around you and identify five things that you can see. Now, I've placed myself in my own room in a much more busy space than I usually do, so that you can even look at things on my screen if that helps, right? You might see the plants around me. You might catch that pink over in the corner. You might see the yoga mats. Whatever you see, just notice five things. Notice what pulls your attention and where your focus is drawn, whether it's on my screen or in your own space. Five things. Then I want you to identify four things that you can touch. So that might be your own body, it might be the floor. Okay, that might be finding something that's tactile that you can touch behind you. So find four things that you can touch. And again, notice how it makes you feel. So just like with what you can see, notice how touch impacts your body. Okay, next, once you have found and identified those four things that you can touch, I want you to listen for three things that you can hear. Okay, now right now I can hear somebody walking in my house. I can hear the cars on the street that is near. I can hear my son's voice. You might be able to hear those things too because my mic is picking them up, but again, listen. And if it helps to close your eyes so that you are not distracted by sight, you can do that. And again, when you hear those things, notice if sound is something that impacts you. Notice how hearing things make you feel in your body. Okay, and then next, eyes open or closed, I want you to identify two things that you can smell. This is a little trickier. And it might be hard. You might have to smell your own skin. If you have plants, you might get close to those plants if you're walking outside. You might be able to smell something very specific. I can smell the sourdough cooking in my oven. So identify 2 things that you can smell, just 2. Even if you have to walk around a little bit to discover what they are. Even if you have to use your own body. And then the last thing that I want you to pay attention to is something that you can taste. This is absolutely the hardest one of all, particularly if it's been a while since you've eaten something. It might help to swallow. And you might not even be able to taste anything super specific. If you want, and you have food nearby that's easy to grab, you can grab something and take a very small bite and taste. And just notice again how that sense, how taste impacts you. How does it land in your body? And once you've gone through each of the senses, so 5 things again that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, okay, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Even just the action of doing that, right? Establishing where you are, right? Your body in space, the things that you can hear and taste, even smell, the things that your body is taking in through your senses, just that in of itself can be really grounding. Right? It makes life feel much more tangible, right? It pulls you back into this moment instead of the moments that are out there and out there in the future, in the past. You get to be here right now because those things are always changing. Okay? Like right now, there are different sounds, and I could let them really distract me. Or I could pull in and I could look at the plant right behind me. I could smell the sourdough in the oven. Those are things that anchor me a little bit more. Sometimes touching my hands on my thighs, my hand on my belly, feeling my breath. Those things place me back into this moment in my body, and they allow me to connect. Okay? So connecting in through your 5 senses, like we just did, is a really, really grounding activity. It's really grounding practice, particularly when things feel incredibly out of control and you feel disconnected. Now, if you noticed, and these are bonus points, homework, if you want to think of it that way, or just the next adventure, is you can think about which of those 5 senses were most impactful for you. So, did you feel more anchored when you saw something? When you felt something? When you heard something? When you smelled something? Or when you tasted something? Okay, so some people are going to respond more to touch, some to sight, some to the other 3. Okay, and actually, too, even if you tend to feel most impacted, most grounded. So another way to think of it, let me pause for a second and say, like, some things can be really grounding. Like the sense of touch can be really grounding for one person, and for another person it can be overstimulating, right? Whereas the sound can be incredibly distracting for some people, but sometimes sound, even like a lot of it, can be really grounding. Okay, and then even for you, there might be moments where, sound is really overstimulating, right? Most of the time. And so what you need is touch, right? To be held, to hold yourself. And then every once in a while, there might be a sound that you hear, like the sound of birds in a tree, right? The sound of water rushing. Those things might actually ground you. So sometimes the additional work is noticing what are those things that actually do ground you versus the things that overstimulate you, the things that kind of pull you out. And when you are feeling untethered, when you are feeling disconnected, when you are feeling out of control even, you can find that particular sense, that particular action, and use it to reconnect. So, hopefully this has been useful, this practice of grounding through the five senses. I'm going to go through them one more time for you, just to recap. So you are looking for 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste. So, thank you for taking the time to do this grounding practice with me. Like I said, I hope it was useful. I hope that it is useful not just in this moment, but in all of the moments that you need it. And like many things, this won't fix everything, but it's a really good start to feeling more anchored in yourself in those moments that feel really challenging. And so I hope that it is for you the beginning of feeling more grounded. Not always the end, but the beginning, a way in to centering yourself. So thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.